I think a big event that I could think of was the Nightmare on Elm Street, the event they had before the season ended, where he was out there on the square still announcing, where they could have just had someone else doing it, but he wanted to be there and play that part where he's part of the meet and greet. And so I think that was a really cool thing. It's he's also here, and that plays a really big part and just shows his passion for UNT basketball and his job.
PA announcer is huge in terms of the fan experience because it's the one voice that they'll hear all throughout the night while they're at a basketball game or a football game or really any game. And so it's important for a good PA announcer to really get the crowd going, because if you have a boring PA announcer, the crowd's not really going to get going. And so it's kind of the centerpiece to fan engagement, in my opinion.
Sure, especially in big moments of games or when the game's really tight, he definitely finds a way to get the crowd into the game. And when you have the crowd in the game, it feeds off the players' energy, especially it feeds off my energy, being a player for 4 years. When you have that behind your back, you kind of get that second wind when you're tired, and just you have what's the word you would say, just more adrenaline, to keep going throughout a 40 minutes in the game. So having that behind your back, it just gives you an extra energy, really.
Just the effects of his voice whenever someone shoots a three or they get a slam dunk or get a block, he puts that emphasis where, again, he gets the crowd into the game, and he's it gets into it. And so as a fan, it's always nice to hear. There's a familiar voice, because I know he's been doing it for quite a while, and so it's always good to hear a familiar voice, but someone who's into it and is just not in there for a paycheck, but it's a passion.
I just love, he's so passionate in what he does and how unique he is for our sports programs. And then just after games, when we're dapping up all the fans and everything, he always, making sure he's checking in on us. Always, even before games as well, he'll just, wants to say hello, how am I doing, checking in on you. And I just feel that's just a good man at heart, checking in on everybody. And he's just so creative at what he does, and he's so passionate about it. So yeah, he's very a good person to be around, especially at what he does at PA announcing.
My favorite thing that Rob does actually is not what a lot of people would notice. Every time the basketball band is done playing and they go back into play, Rob whispers into the microphone, "Mean Green Funky Fresh Basketball Pep Band." And no one really cares about it, but I think it's a really funny thing that he does. And I think it's just, he does a really good job also if we make a three-pointer in three. And I think that gets people going a lot. So I think Rob's been doing it for a really long time, and for him it'd be pretty easy to go through the motions and just kind of drag along each game. But he's definitely a voice that everyone knows when you go to a football game, basketball game.
A lot of people should actually get to know what he does and what he does for the community of Denton, and especially just for our sports programs. He's a big reason why, our major sports like football and basketball and softball, there's a reason why he's so important to the UNT program of sports.
I think Rob adds a lot because he's a joy to be around, and he's performing to the fans every time we make a basket or in the timeouts, whatever he has to say. But it's also important for the PA announcer to be good friends with everyone that he works with at that scorer's table, because it can get pretty heated during big games and if there's lots going on. And when you have a guy like Rob that everyone knows and respects, he's been at UNT for a very long time. Everyone knows his voice, but a lot of good people know that he's a really good person. And so I think that's the thing that I like most about Rob, is that anyone can walk up to him and he'll shake your hand and ask how you're doing.
I think, again, it's just the atmosphere he sets, it's really cool. I've been to a few college basketball games, and I don't think the PA announcer really has that same effect on different teams. But again, I think just this love and passion for the job, I think people can tell, and so I think that's a really cool thing.